Good morning, everybody, and welcome to PSG of Mercer County. The Professional Service Group of Mercer County is a group that is here for you. Anyone that is in any career transition, we are here to make your job search more efficient and more effective. And of course, what we want to say today is today is also Good Friday. And so Good Friday, of course, is a holiday that Christians commemorate the crucifixion of Christ. So for those of you that are celebrating or being attentive this weekend, I hope that you have a meaningful week. And it's also Passover. Today is the second full day of Passover. So if you are celebrating, it's a celebratory time in the Jewish calendar. Hope you are enjoying as well. And also Lent ended just yesterday, which works out very well because today is actually National Beer Day. And so if any of you gave up alcohol for Lent, and I know that my internist did that, I don't know if I should be happy or glad that Lent has ended and I'm going to my internist who drinks alcohol. But it's National Beer Day, and beer is the most popular alcohol beverage in the world that people consume. So we celebrate that. So you may want to have a beer today to celebrate if that's something that you are interested in. And of course, happy Aloha Friday. I always like to celebrate Casual Friday in Hawaii. So I wear my Aloha shirts. Whether you're online or visiting us in person, you're always welcome to wear your Aloha shirts as well. And for our program today, I want to let you know PSG of Mercer County does have a lot of resources. We provide a lot of resources for anyone in job search. We do have our LinkedIn group. Our LinkedIn group has over 1,700 members right now. If you're not yet a member of our LinkedIn group, we eagerly encourage you to join our LinkedIn group. Just look for it on LinkedIn, PSG of Mercer County, and press the join button, and we will put you in pending status. And during the week, we will just confirm that you are indeed someone who's been to one of our meetings. And we do that because we want to just keep the name collectors and the list collectors out, people that are just kind of joining groups or collecting names for their own benefit. Everyone who is in our LinkedIn group has been to at least one of our meetings, either in person or virtually. So be active on LinkedIn. We had Lynn Williams here last week. She spoke about all the wonderful ways we can and should use LinkedIn. So one way, of course, is using a LinkedIn group. We do, of course, also have our website. And our website is more than just a landing page. Our website is 120 pages, over 120 pages of content. There is a lot of information that's there, so we do encourage you to take a look. We do have a section for open jobs. And when you click on that link, that menu item along the top, you have kind of these two sections, these two options. One is there is a list of posted jobs, and there are a couple that are fairly recent, if you are interested, posted by Trenton Area Soup Kitchen for some leadership positions. There are 3 of them that are there. Also, a little bit below, there are links to our career pages. And on the career pages, there are 7 links there. Each link represents a different county. Mercer, which is us, and our 6 border counties. So go check those out. That's kind of our main geographic area. But as you click through there, you'll find links to other company career pages in those counties. And when you click on those companies, you can get to their career page and find what they are posting as positions. So it can help you find local jobs, but just as important, you can use it to find or create a targeted company list. Because here is, if you want to work in this kind of geography, I don't know, 20 or 30 mile geography, then you may find companies that have positions fairly local, and that may be helpful to you. So you're welcome to do that. For our ground rules today, just to let you know, you can ask questions anytime you'd like. If you want, keep your microphones on mute, but if you have a question, click the microphone button to unmute yourself. Ask your question, we'll take it right then. If you prefer not to, you can use the chat. And in the chat, which is a little icon in my screen, the upper right corner, looks like a cartoon call out, a little circle or square with a tab. You click on that and type your question there. And just to help us out here, type the word question and then your question. That way, the folks here that are looking and screening that will be able to see your question pop up from all the other informative information that people are posting in our chat. So just help that stand out a little bit. I'll do my best to monitor the chat as well. I've got a laptop here, I can do that, but we'll be monitoring in the back. Alan and Bill will do that as well for us. And so this is the time in the program where I introduce our presenter. And today I'm the presenter. And so I just thought it'd be a bit self-serving if I introduce myself and tell you how wonderful I am. But Alex Freund is here. Later, he'll tell you how wonderful I am, and then I'll cover everything else. So we'll just otherwise skip the introduction, the presentation. And I wanted to talk about this topic of legal discrimination. And I think a lot of us are concerned about illegal discrimination. We'll highlight that a little bit. But there's legal discrimination. It's perfectly legal. We all confront it in job search. And I want to talk about it for us a little bit and see if we can come up with these 5 tips that would be helpful to you. So let's get into the program. And some of you may remember when you go to a show, the curtain opens. And so we do have a program caveat, and we're not really going to deep dive into illegal discrimination or unlawful discrimination. Specifically, if you have experienced any and you want some advice or guidance, you really should talk to a consultant or a lawyer or a legal professional who can help you through that. And basically, the reason why I'm not going to talk about it is I'm not an attorney. I'm not a legal professional. So I'm not someone that really can give you very specific advice about any illegal discrimination. For this program, I'd like to just say I'm a friend talking to a friend, and so that's what the program is about. But let's first talk about illegal discrimination, employment discrimination. It's kind of level setting the program, and then we'll shift over to the legal discrimination as well. And employment discrimination is basically anytime these conditions exist, and you've probably seen these before, but when employers are using conditions like race, religion, your national origin, physical status, protected status of a veteran, any of these, and they're using it to make a decision in hiring you or how you progress through the office and workplace. So if you're treated less favorably and you suspect it's for any of these conditions, this would be employment discrimination. The ones with the 2 stars I found actually on the New Jersey State website. All the others, including these, I also found federally on the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. So that's what all those are. And to kind of give you some idea of what an example of employment discrimination could be, this is not all of them. Generally, if a woman is paid less than a man, just for that reason, that would be illegal. Now, of course, there could be differences in experience and education and that kind of thing. That may not be. But paying a woman less than a man for the same work, that's illegal. Not hiring people based on their marital status or family status, that would be illegal. You cannot make that kind of decision as an employment hiring decision. You can't factor that in. Another would be hiring people just on their skin color or their race or anything like that would be illegal. So including or excluding people based on this as a criteria would be illegal. Another example would be requiring any test that's not really applicable for the job, but using to screen out people. Let's say you're applying for an accounting or bookkeeping position. You tend to work in an office, and you are asked, you must prove that you can lift 60 pounds. That may not be appropriate for an office job. It may be trying to exclude certain people. That might be an appropriate test for a warehouse job, where you may be expected to lift 50 or 60 pounds, and that would be fine. So, is employment discrimination legal? Well, not for the items we just listed. That would all be considered illegal. People who are in hiring positions, making decisions about hiring, cannot discriminate or make decisions based on the criteria that we just talked about. And discrimination defined outside of employment by itself, treating someone differently than others. So that by itself may or may not be illegal discrimination, but it is a means of discrimination, treating someone differently, or recognizing or understanding differences between people. That's a discrimination. You might say, one is a woman, one is a man. You're recognizing that there is a difference. You're not qualifying that or making a decision on it. You're just observing the difference. So discrimination by itself is not illegal and unlawful. Discrimination by itself is not. So we're going to talk a little bit about, since we've introduced some of the illegal types, we're going to talk about the legal types. So if you think about it, what didn't we identify? And so our vast room full of people here, any thoughts about what we may, or those of you online, what we have not identified? What is legal for an employer to use to discriminate against a candidate? Oops. All quiet on the Western room here. Good.
Education.
What was that?
Education.
Yeah, education might be one, sure. That could be a form of legal. Yeah.
David, you hit on it earlier, but it's requirements of the job. That may be physical, that you have to lift the 60 pounds if you're in a warehouse job.
Right, if that is a requirement and you can't accommodate that, they can make that decision.
Years of experience?
Years of experience. If there's a legitimate reason to have 5 to 7 years of experience and you as a candidate don't have that, you may be discriminated against. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. If you don't have those required skills, education, years of experience, and that's the reason why they're not hiring you, that is not illegal discrimination. That's perfectly legitimate. I've been doing this, so what is the real problem? And I've been doing this job seeker support stuff for a long time. I believe this group almost 10 years. I've been, my first unemployment was 2012. I was active with the PSG leadership before I was the group's leader and facilitator. And so in my opinion, you're not advocating for yourself properly. That's really the problem that I see, or a major problem, why employers then exclude us, don't invite us for interviews, and don't invite us to move forward in the interview process. And in being involved with job seeker support for so long, I've had the opportunity to hear a lot of introductions, the 30-second elevator pitch, more or less, answers to tell me about yourself. I've heard these thousands of times. Alex, as a career coach, you've probably heard this tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of times. I know you quiz people on tell me about yourself. And I find for most people, this is the one that I hear. This is kind of what I hear, not word for word, but the sensation of it. I have over 20 years of professional experience with legacy tools such that I'm absolutely qualified in every skill your company has already moved away from. Working for you, I will share my vast array of outdated knowledge and skills, mismatched skills and experiences to help you grow your organization. That's what I hear from a lot of people in their introductions, and they're telling me about yourself. And so what happens is we tend to look backwards. We promote our professional skills and experiences, the education, by looking back at our accomplishments and our successes. And you have a right to be proud of your accomplishments and successes. But if all you're talking about are what I did in the past, then a challenge you have is you're expecting the recruiters and the hiring managers to figure it out, to figure out if or how you fit in their organization and you fit in the position. And so this is not advocating yourself properly, from my observation, seems to be a big problem that a lot of us have as people in job search. So we'll talk about 5 tips to overcome this legal discrimination. And I'm not giving them away. It's tip 1, tip 2, tip 3, 4, and 5. I think I got that from Dr. Seuss. Thing 1, thing 2. And actually, if you do come across or concerned about illegal discrimination, these same 5 tips can work to mitigate some of those as well. So if you're concerned about that, you may find this is helpful that way as well. So tip 1, assess yourself and assess the job market. It becomes very important because what happens is we often, as job seekers, look at our past achievements, but we don't discuss the skills that really match the position. There's a job description that's provided, and we like to talk about our accomplishments, but we don't always talk about them in the context of the job description that's in front of us, what the hiring manager's expressed needs really are. And it's kind of human nature. We have a hard time looking back at ourselves and scrutinizing ourselves objectively. It's human nature, again, to look at ourselves objectively. We don't like the way our pants look, we don't like the way our hair is combed, whatever it is. And so we need to be able to assess ourselves more properly. You want to assess your current skills. You want to identify and highlight and promote the ones that you have that are needed by the next employer. So if you have 20 or 30 skills, but 10 of them are really what are needed by the employer, those are the ones that you're going to want to talk about and highlight. And you may have them in the back of your head, but you're going to have to put them down. We'll talk about that in a moment. Don't make the hiring manager figure it out. The hiring manager is going to look at dozens of resumes. The organization is going to receive hundreds of resumes. And they just don't have the time to kind of scratch the head and figure out if you are a fit or not. You have to kind of demonstrate and tell them why and how you are a match for this position. If not, you won't stand out as a viable candidate against the other candidates. So you want to stand out that way. So one thing you can do is reflect on your job description, your recent job description. Think about the job that you recently had, or or the one you're currently in if you're still working. And you'll find in there current required skills that are kind of typical. Now, grain of salt, your company may not have moved on as fast as the industry, if the company that you were most recently working for, the one you're in now. But most likely there'll be a bunch that are there that are really tied to your work experience that are fairly current. You also want to look at your industry, the trends in the industry. You want to look at the job market. You want to identify the requirements that those two places have as well. Just because you have a bunch of skills, you want to make sure that they do match what the job market is asking for. And then what you do, write them down. Write down all your relevant professional skills. Eliminate the outdated ones, the ones that really no one is looking for. It takes up space on your LinkedIn, it takes up space on your resume, it takes up space in your discussion when you discuss with people. And also try to objectively rate your skill level. How good am I with these skills? There are some skills you'll be very good at and some you'll be a little less good at. If you're not sure, maybe you have some of your old performance reviews you could fall back on. Or you can ask coworkers or former coworkers, how do you think I am with such and such? They'll give you a bit more of an objective look. And write just a sentence or two about that skill, because that will begin to be the starting point of your discussion, or maybe of what you'll write on your LinkedIn or on your resume or your social media. So you'll write it down. Don't just keep it in your head. Too easy to forget, too easy to not structure or format exactly the way you want to convey that message, but write it down. It makes you much more efficient. And so think about, well, what if I don't have the needed education? That was one of the points that came up earlier. So you need to understand what the employers need and why. Why do they need a certain education level? And so it becomes important for you to understand, for you, so that you can match your education level with the requirement of the job. And you may, as an option, if you don't have the needed education, you can consider earning a degree. Earning a degree can take 2 years or more, and that's probably full-time time. So if you have the time, you may want to. Earning a degree can be expensive. And if it's going to be a 4-year degree or more, you also have to wonder, depending on the subject area, if the teaching organizations are a little behind the times because the industry is moving that much faster. The other thing is with the cost. If you're in your late 50s, early 60s, and you can spend $50,000 to $100,000 on a degree, will you be able to recoup that in your career? So there may not be a return on investment for that as well. But it's an option. Another option, I like this option. Earn a certification or some credential. There are a lot of bodies now that do support and provide credentials for their area of expertise. These tend to be a lot quicker to earn than a degree. And for a lot of hiring companies, a lot more relevant, a lot more effective than a degree. Some topics are not taught in schools. Concepts are taught in schools, but not specific company type programs like Amazon Web Services or topics like project manager professional. They talk about project management, but you don't get that certification. Some companies require it. Remember, understand what employers need and why. And find an advocate. Find someone that can talk to those hiring managers, those recruiters about you. And we'll come back to advocates a bit more in just a few minutes. So don't have the education. What if I don't have the exact experience? What if my professional experience doesn't match? Well, you do need to understand what employers need and why. Because if you're not a match at all, then you're going to be spinning your wheels. You're going to be spending your time pursuing something that you won't really have an opportunity to be successful in your job search. But make sure you understand why this level of experience is important. You may find a lower level position at an organization of interest. You may find a lower level position at that company, 1 or 2 levels, not way at the beginning, not entry level. And ultimately, you want to be a little higher, you'll work your way up. And what's nice is you'll earn while you learn. So you have certain skills in an industry, or you have certain skills your company wants. You're achieving a level maybe as a manager. Maybe you'll be a supervisor instead of a manager, and you'll work your way up. Another opportunity is volunteer. Volunteering is a job. You don't get paid, but you're doing real work, and it's a learning opportunity. And also, when you walk into an organization and offer to volunteer, you will be greeted eagerly. It seems like when you walk into an organization for a job interview, you're not greeted as eagerly because it's work for them to interview you. But in a volunteer organization, they're very eager. When I transitioned from my corporate career, I had a 30-year IT corporate career, and decided to be independent, I needed to start developing my client base. And my first or second client was a volunteer opportunity at a behavioral health organization in Trenton. And so I did have a jacket and tie on, and I respected the interview process. I thought this was I needed to really make a good impression. I walked in, they wanted to know when I could start. They were just so happy I was there. They understood I had a background that could be helpful to them. So it's a nice way to get into an organization and earn as you learn. And find an advocate, someone who could speak up for you. Even if you don't have the exact level of experience, the advocate could speak up for you. And we will talk more about advocates in just a moment. What if I don't have the required job skills? So I don't have the experience, or I may not have the education. I may have the experience and education. What if I don't have the exact required skills? Again, understand what the employers need. Understand why they want it. It's just very relevant for you, so you can talk to them in case you're missing a skill. You can reference and how you can align other skills, or you can avoid certain opportunities altogether and put your time where you really have the most opportunity to be successful. But what you do is return to your self-assessment. Which are my old or irrelevant skills for any position? More importantly, which are the ones that are very relevant? Make sure that you understand and highlight those very relevant ones, and promote and discuss the very relevant skills for that specific position. And you have hard skills, which are kind of the tools that you use, and you have soft skills, kind of the ways you're going to work. And we're going to talk more about those hard and soft skills in just a moment, but you may want to categorize the skills that you have as well. And once again, find that advocate who can talk about you. Because if you're missing certain skills, but that advocate knows the way you work, they may talk on your benefit. We'll be talking more about that in just a moment. I promise we will. Any questions on the first tip? Thoughts, questions?
Nothing in the chat at this
Yeah,
point.
see, nothing there. Height for modeling. I guess that's a discriminatory factor, that's probably legal. If you're going to be modeling a tall, lanky swimsuit kind of thing, and you're not a tall, lanky person, probably be excluded. Yeah, comment or question?
Yeah, I think what he was saying is that that would be a legal thing if you need to be a certain height in order to get into the modeling field.
Yeah, it sounds like it would be. I mean, if you walk into a company and you see all tall people for no reason, that would probably be, I don't know if that is illegal or not. It's not one of the things that I found, but clearly they are discriminating. Basketball team, probably height is very important on a basketball team. In high school, I was good, but not college or the pros. So tip 2, let's think about who hiring managers like to hire. And this becomes very important. And I'm also talking about this from personal experience because I was a hiring manager for almost the entire latter half of my professional career. I had a 30-year corporate career, 14 years as a manager. I had staff I had to hire. And also I've talked to a lot of people who were managers themselves. And whenever I had an open position, whenever hiring managers have an open position, the first thing they do is they pick up the phone, they call people they know. It's the most reliable source for them. It's the one that they trust the most. They pick up they write an email, they get in touch with someone that they know, that they trust, maybe they even worked with, to see if they have an interest in coming to work for them. And I used to do that. I would call up people that I know and say, hey, I've got a position. I thought of you. Would you like to come interview? Now, sometimes they say yes. Sometimes they say no. They're happy where they are. They're not looking and all that. So if you, as a hiring manager, can't hire the people you know, the next place you're interested in is the referrals. People that the hiring manager's friends and colleagues know and trust. Now, these people can be your advocates, those relationships. We're going to get into that in a moment, a bit more. But hiring managers, it's, again, easy. So if I call up a colleague of mine and say, hey, you interested in coming? They say no. Do you recommend anybody? Boy, does that also make my job as a hiring manager easier. The last place hiring managers like to hire is going out to market. There are too many unknowns. Going out to strangers and trying to interview them and hope that you get it right and that they're representing properly and you're doing all your research to make sure that they're representing themselves properly. It's a lot of work. And the little bit of danger is, if as a hiring manager, I make a bad hire, my boss, my company is upset at me because we've slowed down the process. So strangers is the last place. So if you are only applying for positions without knowing anybody that maybe is a hiring manager or connected to a hiring manager, you're really working in the pool of people that's really not where hiring managers want to look. It's a lower percentage of success. So you do want to get to know more people. Getting to know more people, these people can become your advocates. You want to grow your professional network. And the reasons why you want to grow your professional network is, one, you want to make more connections with more people. And it could be anybody. It doesn't matter who it is. You don't have to only be connected to hiring managers. Hiring managers are helpful. Employees who work for hiring managers are helpful. Employees that work in departments that also work with the hiring manager. Anybody in the organization could be someone that could be an advocate for you. Another reason why you want to grow your professional network is you want to exchange information with others. You want to develop these relationships. You want to make them productive. So productive relationships mean that, at least from a professional perspective, that as you reach out to them, they can be helpful to you, and also you can be helpful to them professionally. It doesn't mean they're going to get you a job. It just means you can be helpful to each other. And you want to stay in touch with these people. You want to stay in touch with your advocates to keep the relationship strong. And I've always liked this little sentence. There's a fine line between networking and stalking. So staying in touch with people doesn't mean always sending them an email every day, calling them every day. Don't show up on their driveway. Don't knock on their door, bring their mail in and be helpful. That's a bit too much. You're being a bit of a stalker. But maybe you read an article in an industry journal. Maybe you made a connection with somebody else, and it made you think of that person. So you might send an email. Hey, I read this interesting article. I thought of you. I hope you enjoy it as well. Or I met so-and-so at this association. I thought you may appreciate the connection. Do things like that to keep you in the back of their mind. So professional networking, growing your network, it's not about who you know. You could say you know lots of people, and that's fine. But what really is, it's about who knows you. Networking is about who knows you. So when a situation occurs for someone who's one of your advocates, one of the people in your network, if it makes them think of you, then that's a relationship that's you cultivated very well. And that's what's important. It's about who knows you. Now, I can tell you with 100% certainty that this is 100% accurate. It's about who knows you. And the reason why, it's in bold red. And it could not be in bold red if it was not true. And I think I read it on the internet, and everything on the internet is true, according to ChatGPT. Actually, I think I heard this from Alex originally. So thank you to Alex. So why network? Why use advocates to help you find a job? Well, this was a University of Michigan study. I got this information from Mark Beal. The odds of getting a job through a job site application is 1 in 250. That's 0.4%. The other person who touts this number is Jerry Crispin. And actually, Jerry will be at Breakfast Club tomorrow if anyone is interested. Jerry does a tremendous amount of research in job search. So your odds of getting a job through a job site application, an applicant tracking system, sending your resume into a system, into a black hole, 1 in 250. I wouldn't go to a Atlantic City casino with these kind of odds. You'll lose every time. Employee referrals make up only 7% of applicants, but 40% of hires, which means that if you are using a referral, somebody that you have some professional connection with, to apply for a job, there's 40% chance you'll get hired. That's like fishing in a wet pond, stocked pond. So that's a great statistic. So what you want to do is you want to speak with someone who currently works at the company. You want these people to become your advocates. And in exchange, you will be an advocate for them as well. So this is very powerful. Take advantage of this. Any questions about the hiring manager? We'll be talking about knowing your audience next. All quiet in the room. Chat seems quiet as well. So we will move on. Very good. Know your audience. And what you want to do, your audience is basically anybody you want to talk to. That's your audience. You want to reflect on yourself. You want to reflect on your current skills. You want to reflect on your future value. Because these are the things that you're going to talk to other professionals about, especially people that are in a position to help you find a job and land a job. So you want to, your audience, again, anybody that you need to speak with, use the language that your audience uses. If you're going to speak to people in your industry, in the target company, use acronyms, use business terms, use the terms that are used in the business. But if you're going to be talking to lay people, then you may need to talk in more generic terms. Also, understand the audience's needs, their goals, their pain points, because these are topics that you're going to want to talk to and address. These are ways you're going to connect with these people. And you need to understand not only what's important for, but also how to communicate to your audience. How do they like to communicate? What's the means of communication? What's the language that they use? If not, your message just gets all garbled. You're not getting a clear message across. And also, your message needs to be consistent. What you're talking about professionally needs to be the same type of message. And what I mean by that is, on your resume, you may tout yourself on your resume as an accountant, and that will be fine. Your LinkedIn profile may be a little different. Maybe it describes you as a bookkeeper. That's a little inconsistent. That becomes a little confusing. You're going to want those two to be the same. Maybe on your Facebook page, you talk about your dog sitting business on the side. And on Instagram, you're posting your gardening photos and how you give gardening tips. There's nothing wrong to have these other careers and these other interests, But when they're promoted as different among each other, it becomes confusing because the hiring people don't know, well, what do you really want? Do you want to be an accountant? Do you want to be a bookkeeper? Do you want to be a dog sitter? Do you want to be a gardener? I know that when I faced that sort of information, meeting candidates where it wasn't clear what they wanted, or one or two had told me, I'll do anything in the company that you want. To me, I was always concerned, well, what if I ask you to do something and you don't really like it? You may move on. So the message needs to be consistent. So if you're really going to be an accountant, update that LinkedIn profile so it talks not about being a bookkeeper, but an accountant. And start changing your Facebook and your Instagram or your others to minimize the other careers. They can be interests, but other careers. You don't want to have any confusion. The real benefits of knowing your audience to you would be you can discuss what's important to them, the people that are hiring you. Hiring is a very selfish process. And looking back at when I was hiring, and I didn't know it at the time, but I firmly believe it now, it was all about me. How can you satisfy me? How can you help me with what's important to me? If you get a job, that's good for you, but I've got these problems, and I hope you can fix them. So when you know your audience, you can understand what's the most important to them. Also, people like people that are like themselves. And so there are a lot of ways that you could connect with people to start developing that kind of sense that you're like each other. Talk about a lot of the same things, have a lot of the same professional interests. Think about your friends. Your friends like things that you like. In the job search, it's going to be very similar, especially in full-time employment. The contracting world can be a little bit more lenient that way because they think of it as short-term. But employers, when they hire you, think about hiring you for potentially long-term, 8 hours a day. So they like to hire people that are like them. Also, you get to show them that you'll address and solve their main problems and concerns. Remember, it's a selfish process. Hiring people is selfish. You better help me, right? In exchange, I'll promote you, but you better help me. So you want to help them. You want to show them that you can address their main concerns and problems. You'll also get their buy-in. They'll appreciate that you understand their needs, the things that are important to them. And so you'll start to really get you onto their side. They'll really start to appreciate that. And for you, you maximize your time and resources. If you don't know your audience, if you're trying to sell yourself into a position that you're just never going to get, you had no business being there. You spent a lot of time doing something that had a very low chance of success. You could have put that time into someplace else. You could have had a better success someplace else. So maximize your time and effort by knowing your audience and communicating and working with them the way that they understand. Any thoughts about your audience? Questions? No? Okay. Very good, and we shall move on. And there will be time later as well, where we can hang out afterwards at the networking time as well. So you also need to know, tip 4, that you promote the right skills. And there are certainly lots of skills that you have. Some are current, some are obsolete, some are hard skills, some are soft skills. And you need to promote the ones that the hiring manager needs for the position. So let's talk about hard skills. These are kind of the technical knowledge, the things that you learned on the job, the professional experience that you have, the tools that you use. These are what hard skills are. So maybe you've worked in the retail industry and you know how to use a point of sale system. Knowing how to use that system well, that's a hard skill. Maybe you're an accountant or a bookkeeper and you know how to use Excel. Excel has lots of functions and features, not just putting numbers in cells. If you know it very well, that's a hard skill. Maybe you've studied a foreign language or you've grown up in a home where they've spoken another language and you speak it fluently. That is also a hard skill. For some companies, that could be very valuable. There are lots and lots of hard skills. Clearly, no way I'm going to list them all here, but just wanted to give you some examples to get you thinking of what a hard skill could be. There are also soft skills. And soft skills tend to be the non-technical skills that relate to how you do your job, not the tools that you use to do your job. And typically, these are skills that you learned at work. You didn't learn them in school, whether you went to high school or college or graduate school. No one really teaches you how to be effective. You have to kind of learn that on your own. It also, the soft skills, effectively using your soft skills, makes you more successful in the workplace. So you use Excel, good, but maybe it's the way you've worked with other people to get them to help you on the Excel. Maybe that's made you even more effective. So maybe you show yourself to be a team player. How you've worked with others to resolve conflicts. You've got unexpected challenges in the office. They pop up all the time. How do you deal with those? In job search, especially if you've been out of work for a while, or if you've been in an industry for a long time, or dare I say, even if you're considered an older employee, I'd say focus strongly on your soft skills. Don't minimize the hard skills or ignore them, but focus on the soft skills. And the reason why is some of your hard skills may be outdated. You know, you may be coming fresh off of working for a company, but the company didn't keep current in the tools in the marketplace. Why didn't they? They didn't budget for it. The old tool was working fine. You're moving into an industry that has shifted. You need new tools. So some of those hard skills may be outdated. So some examples: teamwork, how well you work with your other team members, and that could be at the manager level. Do you work with managers very well? Do you work with the people in your team? Do you work with other departments? Even as not as a manager, but someone as a line worker, how are you working with your coworkers? Getting work from the other departments, handing over your work to the other departments. Presentation and communication skills. How well are you able to get your point across? And this is can make you very successful in the workplace. Generally, good communication and presentation skills are needed also to help you get promoted as well. If you're just going to sit at your desk and in a corner and not communicate with other people, you'll do well in that, but if you want to get promoted, you have to demonstrate that you can communicate well and demonstrate your knowledge. This little picture of the guy removing his thumb, I was chuckled when I found it because my nephew's 25 now, but when he was 6 or 7, I did that same thing. And when I pulled my thumb off, he screamed. So I guess I was successful. So I guess my presentation skills, at least to my nephew, were pretty good. Another important skill, time management. How well are you at organizing the work that's in front of you? And how well are you at planning your day and your week and your month becomes very important. Whether you're a manager, whether you're a project manager or a line worker, you all have work and projects that you have to get done. Are you managing your time well? Can you talk about it? Is something that you can demonstrate your effectiveness? And problem solving. We all get challenges put in front of us. And how do we approach them? How well do we accomplish them? What are the steps that we take? So you could talk about how you approach a new assignment or a problem that's in front of you. Another soft skill. Leading and influencing others becomes another important skill. Now, not just as a manager. When you're a manager, you tell somebody what to do and they do it. If not, either you're a bad manager or they're a bad employee, but that's easy to lead. What if you're not their manager? Like if you're a project manager, a lot of the people in the project don't work for you. Can you lead them? Or maybe you're someone that's come up with a good idea and you're just a line worker and you want to sell that idea and promote that to other people. That's very powerful in the workplace, getting your point across. And how you learn new skills, how you develop yourself. Companies are very interested in knowing that you're just not going to sit around and do the same thing over and over again. That as there are new requirements in the marketplace, as we in the department, we as a company need to stay competitive, how you can learn to do so. So again, this is a soft skill. Soft skills are also considered your transferable skills, a lot more so than your hard skills. Skills that can easily be transferred from one job to another job. These are skills that can be transferred from one industry to another. You may not have a lot of experience in an industry that you're targeting, but you have a lot of soft skills that are very relevant. They'll teach you some of the tools that they have if they know the ways you get the job done. Soft skills are also very relevant if you want to take on a new skill promotion level. You're looking to improve your level. So maybe you're a line worker, you're eager to become a manager, and you can demonstrate to the new hiring manager that you're ready for them. So, is there a question? Yeah.
Yeah, David, this is Bill. I hope I'm not stealing your thunder, but this whole thing about professional development, you can connect the dots back to those certifications that you went after, or the skills you acquired in your job search is a great demonstration to the future employer that, hey, you're adaptable, you can learn new things. So don't ignore that.
Absolutely. So those are skills, those of us here in job search, we are learning new ways to job search. And these are skills as a soft skill that can be applied throughout our career. Yeah, Alex. Yep, just press the green button.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, good. David, can you go back to the personal and professional development for a second? Yeah. This is an area of discrimination, by the way. I read lots of articles, and what I find is that there is a real discrimination, age discrimination, on this topic. Companies need, for the future, people that are ready, able, and capable of learning new things instantly. Older people are not so inclined to do that. And this is an area that is valid, it's there, and I don't see many articles writing about it. So if you can develop this a little bit, I would welcome.
So I agree with you, Alex. I think that it's human nature that we get a little stuck in our ways. But I don't think it's a physical limitation. And so what I'm trying to bring out here is be aware that you do need to be open to learning new things. You do need to be aware that there may be a new tool or technology or an approach that in the workplace, even though you were successful for 20 or 30 years so far, that there's shifts all the time. There are always shifts. So I agree. Yeah. So be aware of it. Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Anything else? Nothing in the chat and no hands going up. So we will move on. Good. So the last thing I want to talk about is communicating, the way you communicate to get your message across. Communicate in a term called SARS, in terms of SARS. Now, this is an acronym. There are a couple of different acronyms that are all kind of the same thing. SAR is situation, action, result. Sometimes you've heard it as a PAR, problem, action, result. Sometimes it's been called a CAR, challenge, action, result. STAR, situation, task, action, result. They're really all kind of the same thing. They're a slightly different version of the same. I like SAR. I can't tell you why I like SAR better than the other. So that's what we're going to stick with. But the terminology of the acronym is kind of secondary to the message that we'll talk about. And that really is that using this technique, it's very effective to express all the relevant information about using your skill and its resulting accomplishments. And it's also a very efficient way of doing it as well. You don't have to answer a question with a whole long paragraph. You can do it very quickly. And as example, SARs, you use them instead of bullet points. And we're going to give you some examples of these SARs in just a moment. So you'll write out these SARs, the situation, action, result, instead of just the bullet point, whether it's on your resume or your LinkedIn profile. So what is the S? It sets the scene. That's what the situation is. It sets the scene. There's some scenario that you're about to talk about, and rather than just saying, yes, I do that, you'll give an example and say, here's a situation that I encountered. The next is the action that I took. As a result of this situation, I took this step or these steps to move forward. And as a result, I have this outcome. And that's what the goal of putting these SAR stories together. And you do need to think about them. You need to think about the questions you're going to get in an interview, or questions or the points that you may want to get across when you meet somebody, and just have these kind of prepared in your mind. But as an example of using a SAR, you may have on your resume, I'm proficient at expediting the month-end close process. So for those of you in finance, and I chose this one because for a number of years I was an IT manager of financial systems, so I learned a lot about this. The end of every month, the end of every quarter, what a company does is they close their books so that they can say, here's our balance sheet at the end of the month, here's our income statement at the end of the month, and then they do month-to-month comparison, quarterly, and year-to-date. So they close the books. They still keep the systems open for new business, but they close the books. I'm proficient at expediting the month-end close process. And a hiring manager might say, well, okay. Contrast that to the SAR. Challenged with a long month-end closing process. There's the situation at the office, that the month-end closing process took a long time. It doesn't matter right now how long that long time was. Did it take 4 days, 8 days? Did it take a whole month to close out the prior month? It was longer than management was happy. I reorganized my team's end-of-month work time into 2 shifts. That's the action that I took to accommodate that. So I didn't say my team is 2 people, 10 people, 1,000 people. I didn't say the times of the shift, that we had 2 12-hour shifts or everyone worked 24 hours. Doing so put more staff hours into this process, reducing the organization's end-of-month close time by 2 days. And that was the outcome. Again, there are some gaps, right, that I didn't talk about. I didn't talk about how long our month-end process, who was upset, who quantified it or qualified it as being too long. But this is the bullet point that you put on your LinkedIn profile, the SAR. This is what you put on your resume. When you have the opportunity to talk with someone, now that you've got their interest, they will want more if this is of interest to them. You know, how many hours did your team work? What were the hours of the shift? How many days did it go from and to? You can start the discussions, but this also validates that you're proficient at expediting a month-end close process because you demonstrated how it's used. Yeah, question, Alex.
David, I typically use something called SARB, S-A-R-B.
Oh, okay.
Actually, the B is the most important part, and I'll tell you what. B stands for benefit.
Okay.
Because reading what you said here, doing so, put more staff hours into the process, reducing the organization end-of-month closing time by 2 days. And my mind says, okay, so what? But if you were to add, by doing that, the entire department was invited for lunch by the vice president because whatever. So you see, I think the benefit, if you accentuate that, it will add to the content and be more convincing.
That's very interesting. So adding the benefit or value of the result of this SAR. So it could be very powerful. Absolutely. Thank you. Now I do another presentation where I do talk about SARs. And when I first started it, this was my only example. And usually the first question was, can you give me another example? And it actually made me think of you, Alex. I remember you doing a presentation on interview skills. And you said, tell me about a time that you failed. And someone instantly gave you an answer and you said, tell me another time you failed. So another example. I effectively resolve team conflicts and issues. Well, if you're a manager, you probably kind of are expected to do this. I'm actually surprised at how many people are not good at this or don't think about this ahead of time. They get promoted maybe because of their process skills and less for their people skills. But this is something that they want to talk about. But then again, using the SARs, when I was leading a team on a project, 2 of the team members got into an argument over workload. Okay, so here is a potential team conflict. So that's the situation that we were in. So I arranged a team meeting so we could discuss how to adjust the team's work assignments. And that was the action that I took. How do I Let's kind of talk this through. It was important for the team. This made everyone on the team happier and more productive. I guess there's a little bit of a benefit built into this outcome and result as well. But again, not talking about the great details, but as a high-level introduction of my competency, using the SAR is much more effective for you than using just a bullet point, because you're demonstrating that you are an example, that you are effective at resolving team conflicts. And this is actually based on my own experience. When I was managing a team, someone came to me with an issue, and we had to call the group together, and we talked it through to get it understood. So that was kind of the genesis of me creating this. So you want to be able to communicate in SARs on your LinkedIn profile. On your LinkedIn profile, take a look at it. There's an experience section. You probably have your most recent job or current job, below that prior jobs, and you might have some bullet points, like effectively resolve team conflicts. Change it. Create a SAR type description. If you think it's getting too long, it doesn't matter. LinkedIn doesn't have a page length, so you can make it long. If you think it's a little too long, take one or two of the bullet points out and have a fewer SARs, but demonstrating effectively some of your skills. And on your resume as well, use the same ones. You could use the same ones on your resume, because you'll get the interest of the recruiter and the hiring manager understanding the competency that you truly have. If your resume is getting too long, that's a BS excuse. There's no maximum length to a resume. Maybe your resume doesn't need to be 1 page. Maybe it should be 2 pages. Maybe it should be 3 pages. Don't worry too much about that. Give them relevant information, and the length is less important. So as we wrap up, oh, you have a question?
Before we wrap up,
Before we wrap up.
I think
On our
the
way.
whole topic of SARS is really good. I think the goal is engagement, so that the person you want to motivate the person that you're talking to ask you a question. And that means you don't tell them everything they need to know within the SAR. You leave some white space in there that would motivate them to say, well, tell me more about that. And then all of a sudden, you're in a communication mode of talking as a peer, and that can only be good. So,
Great. Thank you very much. And you know, an interview isn't just answer my questions. It should be a discussion. And if you lead with an answer kind of like this, with key points, but a little bit of the white space, you now can encourage that discussion, because they'll want to know more. You know, what was the issue about the workload? You know, what caused it? What set that up? Maybe as the manager, there was something that the manager did to create a problem, and it was just being expressed by the workers. They want to learn more. Yep. So thank you very much. Just quickly looking, a couple of introductions here in chat. No questions, so we will begin to wrap up. So as you do wrap up, so employment discrimination is illegal, and we know that. And if you are experiencing some kind of concern of employment discrimination, whether it's at a current or recent job, we can introduce you to attorneys that you could speak with. But employers can choose to hire candidates based on the things that they really need: the skills, the education, the experience, and that's all legitimate. Don't look back, look forward. Assess your skills, assess the industry, and highlight and promote those that you have that are needed by your next employer, not just the ones that you're proud of that you want to talk about. Find advocates, people that can be representatives for you. And I'd also say be an advocate for somebody else. Give to get. So when you develop these relationships, they can be two-way. Right? We're always happy to help people that have helped us. So help others, and they'll be happy to help you. Look to earn any needed certifications or skills that may be missing, and there are different ways that you can do that. And we talked about those a couple of slides ago. By the way, all these slides will be available to download shortly. And develop SARS as a means to effectively communicate and demonstrate your skills and the value that you bring. And make sure you're talking to the right audience. Make sure you're talking to the people that need to know this information or the information you're trying to get across. Now, these things also, these 5 tips, can also be used in some cases to help you overcome some illegal discrimination. The question from Alex a while ago was about some older employees may not be as effective at being flexible and learning new things. Well, maybe if they have the right advocate, that advocate will talk and say, well, you know, this guy David is someone you want to talk to. I've worked with him. He's got these great skills. And then you can overcome maybe that ageism if somebody has that. So use some of these skills as well to mitigate potentially some of the illegal discrimination as well, or stop it before it occurs. Because they'll read information about you, they'll learn information about you, you'll talk to them, your advocates will talk to them, and get the information that the hiring managers really need. So it's possible as well. So any last questions as we wrap up?
I have a comment.
Okay,
This is Charlie R. There are people who go through work, learn things, maybe on the cutting edge of process, but they've never had time to go back to school or get certs because they're working 63 hours a week. And they're very good at what they do. But these people are going to wind up going out into the world with knowledge, but no certs. So perhaps step one for some people might be to actually sit there and chug your way through some online certifications.
You know, yeah, very good point. You know, if somebody is in a company working 63 hours a week, they hate the job, so they're job hunting, and now they still don't have time for certifications. Maybe what they do is drop something. Maybe they drop the job search time and then only do the cert time right now, and then shift that available time into job search. So it's time management, and given that time management is a soft skill, that could be helpful as well.
Oh yeah, but also that 63-hour work week might suddenly terminate when the company goes belly up because whatever, or you go belly up at the company, and the person's left without anything on paper that covers what they know.
You know, certainly when the 63 hours are up, you have your personal time or family time at home, you have obligations. If this is important, you may need to engage family members as well, your spouse or partner, your kids, and let them know, you know, daddy, mommy needs to do this while they're at home. You know, we won't go on a vacation this year, or I can't take you shopping. You'll have to explain and get the little buy-in from them. Let them know it's temporary, so you can take some of your non-work time and make it available to you to grow a little bit. And then when the certification is over, and they tend to be quick, you know, they can be weeks or months, give more of that time back to the family that you took away from them. So it is a time management issue. And of course, if the 63-hour-a-week job ends, then you've got 63 hours a week to learn whatever you want to learn. So you've got that time back. So you do. Was there another question, Alex? Were you going to say? Please.
Yeah, David, I'm fascinated by this slide that you're showing here. It says questions, because I'm trying to see which languages I will recognize there. Anyhow.
Yeah, if you don't know, Alex speaks 5 languages, except when he's angry, he speaks 6 languages.
We don't talk about it. David, can you please go back several slides? You classified communication as a hard skill somewhere.
Soft skill.
As a soft skill. Yeah, why is presentation communication soft skill? Because I can argue it is really hard skill. Yeah. You know, what I do every day with my clients is I teach them how to better communicate their value for their next employer in the future. It's clearly a hard skill.
I don't think, I'll rephrase that. we have primary skills in the job, and I think some of us associate all primary skills as hard skills, and I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think soft skills can still be a primary skill, even though it's not a tool or a program or an approach, but I certainly can see the support for the concept that presentation skills, can be more of a hard skill, especially if it's your primary tool that you're using at the job.
Exactly.
It's both, because if you're selling something or trying to promote something, focus on something, it's a hard skill. But when you fit in overall with the entire crowd in the company, now it's a soft skill.
Yeah, so that's certainly possible. Someone like a salesperson is communicating, most of the job. And, what's the other writing hard skill? Filling out an order. So, yeah, I could see you making a case for it. I guess I saw it as a soft skill because from my profession, where I was in IT, the tools that I used were other than presentation and communication. If I had the opportunity to be in front of senior management, that was something that wasn't taught to me. I had to kind of develop it on my own, regardless of what programming language I use. Yeah.
David, I want to make one comment about the training and development too. With the advent of COVID and so many things going online, it's much easier to be able to do certifications and training too, so people can do it, on the weekend or at night too. So, it makes it a little bit easier from a time management perspective. In the past, you might have had to take a day off from work, to do it, but now
Sure.
you can do it almost any time. The training's available.
Yeah, maybe, you take a few hours during the middle of the day, and because you have a work from home day, you extend your work day till 7 or 8 o'clock to get the work done. And that might have been more of a challenge if you had to commute, to be in the office.
No.
Someone would argue a good boss would have said, well, take the class at your desk. But not always sure that always happened. Yeah. Thank you. Good point. They flash through to the end. So for those of you that will want to download the slides, let me get to that. We are going to put that in our, come on. Right there. So in our PSG of Mercer County website, there's a link called Meeting Presentation Documents. We are in the meeting. This is a presentation document, so it will be there a little later today. We'll also make this video available as well. So as we wrap up, completely wrap up, just want to let you know what's coming up over the next couple of weeks. Next week, Janelle Rosino will be presenting to us. She will be presenting to us virtually, What's My Line? And she'll be talking about the job interview. That's what she'll be talking about. And the following week, the 21st, Terry Seaman is going to be here. I always love when Terry is able to present. The Resilient Job Seeker. He has great insight. He's been a job seeker assistant support for many, many years, has great insight as a coach and supporter of job seekers. So that's what we have coming over the next 2 weeks. Tuesday evening, New Jersey job seekers will meet. They meet virtually on the second and fourth Tuesday of the month, so they will meet then. I'll put that information in our LinkedIn group, the link for that. Tomorrow morning, the Breakfast Club of New Jersey will be meeting, and Jerry Crispin will be leading a discussion tomorrow morning at the Breakfast Club of New Jersey. So thebreakfastclubnj.com, go take a look, and you'll get the connection information for that as well. And go visit our cousin organizations who are still meeting virtually. PSG of Central New Jersey meets on Monday mornings at 10:30, psjcnj.biz, and PSG of Morris County meets Wednesdays at 9:30 in the morning. So that's what's coming up then. And it's psgmc.org for PSG of Morris. So that is our program today. For those of you that are still online, we're going to keep the session open for you. If you want to hang around the network, I encourage you to please do so. And for those of us that are here, we will do that here, but the in-person group will not be networking with the virtual group. And for those of you that are celebrating this weekend, for Easter and Passover and Ramadan as well. I do hope you have a meaningful and enjoyable celebration. And until we get to see you next week, we'll simply say, bye, everybody.